Elon Musk shocked to see millionaire and black homeless woman teaching his daughter on the street. The city was a storm of noise and movement, screeching tires, shouting voices, the endless rush of feet on concrete. Jonathan Reed had just stepped off the subway when his eyes caught something that made him freeze. Right there, on the cracked sidewalk, a well-dressed man, tall and confident, was sitting cross-legged next to a black woman with tired eyes and a fierce smile. Between them, a little girl clutched a shabby teddy bear, listening intently. It wasn't just the scene that shocked. What stole the breath from Jonathan's lungs was the man's face. It looked exactly like Elon Musk's. Yes, Elon Musk, the billionaire genius. But this wasn't the flashing cameras or a luxury car showroom. This Elon was scruffy, sitting on the ground, gently explaining something to the girl, the woman, Maya. Her voice was soft but strong, like the wind that bends but doesn't break trees. Her look at the black woman, teaching his child like she owns the place. A crowd gathered fast, swelling with a mix of confusion, pity, disbelief. The city's rhythm slowed for a heartbeat. Jonathan felt his chest tighten. The image was bizarre but electric. The sunlight cut sharp lines across Maya's scarred hands and the rough fabric of her jacket. She spoke fiercely, telling Zoe about worlds beyond the grim sidewalk, of hope and survival. The millionaire figure nodded as if every word was a treasure. Then, suddenly, the man's eyes caught Jonathan's. A flash of something deeper. Pain? Recognition? Before Jonathan could react, a harsh cry shattered the moment. Zoe stumbled, falling hard. Maya lunged, catching her daughter, but a stranger rushed forward, shouting and pushing people back. Jonathan's heart hammered. His hands trembled at his side, a lump burning in his throat. He'd seen suffering before, but this was raw, close, too close. "Don't get involved," a voice hissed nearby, disrespect dripping. "That's their problem." But the echo of those words bounced off Jonathan's head like thunder. He couldn't walk away. As the crowd pulled back, tongues wagged about a developer planning to tear down the neighborhood, a ruthless giant eyeing the streets where Maya and Zoe struggled. Everyone whispered about fights, greed, and lost homes, but no one had dared to stand up. Jonathan felt a shadow blink behind Maya's bright eyes. Stories buried under years of pain, secrets locked tight under the flashing city lights. And beneath it all, a quiet but merciless truth hovered. Jonathan's own past wasn't all clean either. A childhood tragedy, long ago forgotten, unfolded alongside Maya's in ways he hadn't imagined. He took a shaky breath as the crowd began to part. The figure, who looked like Elon Musk, slipped away silently, disappearing into the concrete jungle, leaving Jonathan staring at Maya and Zoe with pounding questions. Could he leap into this mess? Could he find the strength to fight? Or would he become trapped, tangled in a darker web no one saw coming? Something was about to break. Something had to. And Jonathan's next move might change everything. What is the truth Maya hides? And why does it echo so loudly inside Jonathan's own scars? Stay with me. This is just the beginning. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Something was about to break. Something had to. Jonathan stood there, his pulse racing. He was lost in a storm of thoughts swirling inside. As he stared at Maya and Zoe, the chaos of the street melted away. Could he really step in? His feet felt glued to the ground, heart pounding against his ribs. But then, a sharp crack ripped through the air. A gunshot? No, just a firecracker. But people jumped, startled, eyes wide. A nearby shop owner shouted, "Get inside, now!" Panic erupted. The crowd surged backward, heads turning, breath hitching. And amidst it all, Maya's expression shifted. Fear washed over her face, her fierce smile vanished. "Zoe, get behind me!" she shouted, instinct kicking in. Jonathan's heart raced faster. "Maya!" he called, pushing through the throngs of people. But in a heartbeat, the situation escalated. From the back of the crowd, a figure emerged, tall, hooded, and glancing around like a predator. Jonathan could see the glint of something metallic in the man's hand. His stomach twisted. "Stay down!" Maya screamed. But chaos reigned. Without thinking, Jonathan dove forward. He felt the electric urgency of the moment coursing through him. He had to protect them. With a shout, he shouted, "Hey, leave them alone!" But the figure didn't care. The man raised whatever was in his hand, pointing it right at Maya. The world slowed. Jonathan's heart stuttered. He moved closer, ready to shield them, when, crack! A deafening sound. A surge of light flashed. The hooded figure staggered back, clutching his side. Jonathan blinked. He couldn't process what he was seeing. Blood? Then the crowd erupted in screams. Everyone turned. Many fled in panic, while others whipped out their phones, recording it all. Jonathan felt lightheaded, his heart thudding like a drum in his ears. "Zoe!" Maya cried, falling to her knees beside her daughter, who was frozen in shock, clutching her teddy bear like a lifeline. But it wasn't over. From the shadows, the figure wasn't alone. Another appeared, and another. They all wore masks. A gang? Perhaps? One pushed through the crowd, shoving people aside, eyes wild. All intentions were dire. "Maya, get out of the way!" Jonathan bellowed, adrenaline flooding his limbs. Just as he reached them, he locked eyes with the figure that resembled Elon Musk, that same tall guy, scruffy and disheveled, moving stealthily among the confusion. Jonathan's breath caught. Was it him? A man looked so familiar, but now, twisted with intent, a shadow of who he might be. Then, Jonathan noticed something that made his heart drop. The man reached for something hidden beneath his coat. A weapon? But before he could think, he saw it. A badge. "Police! On the ground!" The shouts broke through the chaos. What? Jonathan's mind reeled. The man wasn't a threat. He was here for protection. But the tension didn't ease. Maya whispered something to Zoe, then turned to Jonathan, her eyes wide. What's happening?" The truth crashed over him. This was not just a case of a wealthy man visiting the streets. It was a setup, a trap that linked back to Jonathan's own past he thought buried beneath time. He felt bile rise in his throat. With that, Maya grabbed Zoe and pushed through the crowd, panic etched on her face. But Jonathan stood frozen. Would he chase after them? Or would he confront whatever shadows were haunting him as well? And just as the crowd started to thin, the man who looked like Elon turned and locked eyes with Jonathan. A flash of recognition, so deep it sent ice running through his veins. Everything he thought he knew twisted in that moment, changing the course of the story forever. What ties ran deeper than appearances? And why did those familiar eyes feel like home and danger all at once? The truth was looming, ready to break free, and Jonathan realized he might already be too late. Jonathan stood frozen, the crowd bubbling around him like boiling water. Maya's fierce smile had just been pulled into a scream, and before he could think, the world shattered. A second scream sliced through the noise. Not just a cry of surprise, but something deeper, something darker. Gunshots! 3 sharp cracks echoed, one after another, like thunder in a clear sky. People scrambled, panic igniting the air. Bodies pressed against each other, desperate to escape the chaos. Maya dropped to the ground, clutching Zoe to her chest. Jonathan's instincts crashed through his fear. He lunged forward, but his legs felt like lead. The crowd surged away, shoving him back. He could barely see through a rising cloud of dust and debris, swirling like a living thing. Maya's head turned sharply, eyes wide with terror. "Get Zoe!" she shouted, voice cracking. But all he could see was the figure, a man in dark clothes, slipping through the throng. He wore a mask, eyes glinting with anger and determination. Suddenly, he turned, and Jonathan caught a glimpse of a logo. The same eagle that stared down from countless news articles about a tech giant's empire. Pain shot through Jonathan's chest. No, it couldn't be. But as the figure pushed through the crowd, an unmistakable sense of familiarity washed over him. The same sharp glare, the same unyielding confidence. Could it really be? The crowd erupted into a frenzy. "Is he armed? Call the cops!" From the ground, Maya struggled to shield Zoe. "Stay down!" she cried. But the little girl's eyes were pools of confusion and fear. Jonathan's heart raced. He couldn't let this end like this, not with the two of them caught in the crossfire. "Move!" he shouted, breaking free from the crowd's grip. He elbowed through bodies, each person a wall blocking him from rushing forward. Fear clutched his throat, but determination pushed him on. He could see the masked figure now, and behind him, a van screeched to a stop. The back doors swung open, gaping like a mouth hungry for chaos. "Maya!" Jonathan screamed, his voice swallowed by the tumult. Reality warped as the masked man dove into the van. Heart pounding, he reached the duo on the ground. "Get up, we have to go." He extended a hand to Maya, and the dark rings under her eyes flared with panic. Just then, someone screamed for help, and a man collapsed nearby. Blood soaked the sidewalk. The urgency thickened the air like smoke. Let's find somewhere safe, Jonathan urged, tugging gently at Maya's arm. But she hesitated, torn between the need to protect Zoe and the instinct to run. Suddenly, Maya's eyes locked onto his. "You should go. It's not safe." "No, not without you." His voice cracked, desperation drawing them closer together. Then, as if the universe blurred again, Maya's expression shifted. A fleeting look flickered in her eyes, something hidden, something she was ready to share. "Jonathan, But a blaring horn interrupted. The van was pulling away, tires screeching against the pavement, and a nightmare unfolded in front of his eyes. The masked figure turned to face him, and for a brief moment they locked eyes. And then, in the chaos, it happened. A loud explosion erupted from the van, sending flames roaring toward the sky. The force knocked Jonathan back, and Maya instinctively shielded her daughter. The world spun. The crowd scattered like leaves caught in a storm, screams rising into the night. As Jonathan lay on the ground, stunned and disoriented, a shadow fell over him. Not just any shadow. It was the silhouette of the billionaire face he had just witnessed. The scruffy version from moments before, and behind him, flickers of fire lit the dark, like a new dawn of disaster. "You have to choose now, Jonathan!" The voice was familiar, tearing through the confusion. What did that even mean? And as the smoke curled into the night sky, Jonathan realized the truth was far more complex than he had ever imagined. The connections were deeper, the stakes higher. Lives were hanging by a thread in this unraveling story. He might not just be fighting for Maya and Zoe, but for something far larger than himself. Something hidden in his past, and about to emerge in flames. What had he truly walked into? And who had Maya been before all this? There was no turning back, only forward, into the unknown. Jonathan lay there, heart racing, disoriented by the chaos. Smoke curled into the night, stinging his eyes. The shadow looming over him was a reminder of the man who looked like Elon Musk, shouting through the pandemonium. "You have to choose now, Jonathan!" Choose? Choose what? Confusion surged through him. But the moment didn't allow any time for clarity. Just as he pushed himself to stand, another explosion rocked the ground. This one was different, sharper, closer. The crowd gasped collectively, a wave of fear washing over them. Everyone scattered like leaves before a storm. "Get out of here!" "Yes!" Someone screamed. "Maya!" Jonathan choked, searching through the mist of confusion. He couldn't see her or Zoe. Panic squeezed his chest tighter. Where were they? Just then, the smoke parted, and he caught a glimpse of a figure, someone dragging a familiar form from the chaos. Jonathan's breath hitched. It was Maya, but she was not alone. The stranger beside her was someone Jonathan recognized, someone he thought was far removed from this chaotic world. No, it can't be! Maya was pulling her own brother, a man Jonathan had not seen in years. Her eyes flickered with desperation, filled with something unspeakable. The crowd thrummed around them, a blend of disbelief and confusion that felt like a physical punch. Jonathan stumbled back, disbelief gripping him. Why was he here? How could this even be happening? The brother, someone who had vanished from her life, a ghost slipping out of shadows. As Maya and her brother stood together, the weight of their past seemed to explode. the air thick with the tension of unspoken words. Jonathan felt a lump in his throat. It all flashed before him. The stories he had heard about her life, the struggles, the scars, and yet here he was, in the middle of it all, with everything turned inside out. "You shouldn't have come back," Maya shouted, her voice cracking. "I had no choice," he pleaded, his face twisted with pain. "They're looking for you, Maya, for both of us." "Done. Hunt has only caught fragments of their exchange, words swirling in a fog of shock." Suddenly, Jonathan realized the van that had blown up wasn't just a random act of violence. It was connected. This wasn't a coincidence. This was personal. Then the urgency sank into him, chilling his veins. The brothers' eyes shifted, darting toward the crowd, full of recognition and fear. "We've got to move. He'll be here." That's when it hit Jonathan. A wall of realization crashing down. The billionaire figure, the strange encounter, all of it connected back to Maya. Her history was not just buried in the streets. It was dangerous and alive, reeking out like serpents in the shadow. "Who are they?" Jonathan asked, his voice a whisper. "Why are they after you?" But the answer was hidden in Maya's eyes. Fear and love intertwined, the essence of their shared past looming larger than the chaos around them. Before she could respond, the crowd erupted into motion again. More explosions echoed. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each heartbeat. The masked figures were returning. "We need a car! Now!" Maya's brother shouted, pulling her close to him. Jonathan realized he could either run, abandon the two women who had shaken his world upside down, or confront the truth that had led him to this point. But something echoed in his mind. Shadows from the past were emerging. What had they been through? What was hidden that could change everything? "Wait!" he yelled, taking a step forward as they started backing away. "I can help! We can figure this out together!" But just as he extended his hand, a blinding light flashed from the crowd, followed by a chilling figure stepping out of the chaos. It was the man from earlier, the one who looked like Elon. But he wasn't alone. With him, a woman stepped forward, her face familiar, but twisted with malice. "So you found her," the woman said, with a smile that felt like ice cutting through the air. "Looks like the reunion's just begun." Jonathan's stomach dropped. What truths lay ahead, and what dangers lurked behind every corner. The very ground felt unstable, shifting beneath him like the realities he thought he knew. The night was just beginning, and questions swarmed, each one more dangerous than the last. What was about to emerge from the fire of secrets? And who could he trust in this storm? Jonathan's mind spun as he stared at Maya and Zoe, the crowded street a blur of voices and movement. His heart hammered in his chest, an echo against the quiet urgency that dripped from his thoughts. He wanted to reach out, to bridge the strange gap between them, but fear held him still. Suddenly, a loud crash broke through the murmurs. A car skidded to a stop, tires screeching, metal grinding against concrete. A man jumped out, wild-eyed, arms flailing. "Get away from her," he screamed, pointing directly at Maya. The crowd shrank back in shock. Jonathan's heartbeat echoed in his ears, adrenaline hitched tight in his throat. Who was this man? And why did he look like a storm ready to unleash chaos? Maya stood protectively in front of Zoe, her fierce eyes wide with confusion and something else. "Recognition? Please, calm down," she said, her voice a mix of authority and fear. But the stranger charged forward, shoving past the couple of bystanders. "I'm warning you." He reached for Maya, but Jonathan instinctively stepped between them. His trembling hands raised, a barrier formed of instinct and urgent determination. "Stop!" he shouted. "What's going on?" The man halted, eyes wild, darting between the crowd and Maya. "She's lying! You don't understand!" he yelled, desperation oozing from every word. "She's not who you think she is! She's a thief! A con artist!" Shock rippled through the onlookers. Whispers ignited, like a match struck against gasoline. "Is she really? No way! She can't be!" The murmurs fueled the fire. Maya's panic flared, but she stood strong. "I've done nothing wrong. I'm just trying to help my daughter." Tears shimmered in her eyes, but her voice held steady. Yet Jonathan could see the cracks forming beneath the surface. The man took a step closer, chest heaving. "You think you're a mother?" His voice dripped with venom. "You think you're protecting her? You've lied your way through life. You left me with nothing." Jonathan's mind raced, pieces falling into a jumble. Had this man once been a part of her life? Who was he? The crowd's anger shifted, skepticism growing sharper in their gazes. He could see Maya's hands tremble as she clutched Zoe's arm tighter. "Who are you?" he asked, voice steadier now. "What's your story?" The man's lips curled into a harsh smile. "Her past, that's the story you should be worried about." He turned to the crowd, his voice booming. "You want to know why she's on those streets? Because she ran! She left me! She left everything!" His eyes darted back to her, raw anger mixing with something fragile. "You're not a mother. You're a liar." Jonathan felt the air thicken around him. Every pair of eyes now shifted to Maya, questions hanging like heavy clouds. What truth lay beneath those fierce, yet tired eyes? Maya's face drained of color. "No, please!" And just like that, with one accusatory sentence, Jonathan's world tilted off its axis. The woman he saw as a beacon of strength now stood as a potential fraud in the eyes of the crowd. He thought of the scruffy man who looked like Elon Musk disappearing into the city. Was he tied to this? The crowd murmured, divided now, sympathy swirling with doubt. The balance of judgment teetered on the edge, practically begging for a push. "Why did you leave?" Jonathan pressed, his voice barely above a whisper. And then, just as Maya opened her mouth, ready to spill the truth, another crash echoed down the street. A line of police cars barreled toward them, lights flashing, sirens wailing. The crowd shifted, startled, but Jonathan's eyes never left Maya's desperate gaze. Just then, he noticed something slip from her pocket, a small, crumpled photo. His heart sank as he recognized the faces on it. A family portrait with a familiar name at the top. The ominous answer hung in the thickening air, weaving through the chaos around them. What was her past? And how deeply was Jonathan tied to this unraveling story? The tension electrified the street as the truth threatened to explode. Something had just shifted in a way none of them could understand. And there they remained, on the verge of revelation, with everything hanging in the balance. Jonathan stood there, rooted to the spot, while the noise of the city dulled around him. The gravity of the moment pulled him closer to Maya and Zoe. But then, before he could make a move, the world exploded. A sudden explosion of shattering glass sent shards flying. A storefront's window shattered, showering the sidewalk with glittering, dangerous gems. Pandemonium erupted. People screamed, faces twisted in shock. Jonathan's heart raced as he instinctively bolted forward, adrenaline surging. "Get back! Everyone, get back!" a man yelled, trying to herd the crowd away from the chaos. Jonathan felt raw fear gripping his chest. He couldn't see what caused the explosion, but all he could think about was Maya and Zoe. "Mommy!" Zoe cried, her voice sharp, piercing the confusion. Maya's eyes went wide, a reflection of Jonathan's own fear. She scooped Zoe up into her arms, clutching her tightly. Jonathan pushed forward through the crowd, hands reaching out to steady himself against the waves of panic. His thoughts raced. What was happening? Was anyone hurt? Then he saw it. A man, wild-eyed and frantically waving his arms, bursting through the scattering crowd. "It's a setup! They're coming for us! They want us out!" His words were a desperate scream. Jonathan's heart sank. A setup? Who were they? Why? The onlookers remained entranced by the chaos. A mixture of shock and fear painted across their faces. Jonathan turned his attention back to Maya, who was now backing away, her fierce smile replaced by a mask of dread. She wasn't just another homeless woman. She was protecting her daughter from something far darker than the city streets. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimmer of blue. A passing police car skidded to a halt nearby, lights flashing. Officers jumped out, shouting orders. They advanced on the shouting man, trying to subdue him. But as they approached, he revealed something that stopped Jonathan in his tracks. "Look at the bracelet!" the man yelled, pointing at a shimmering silver bracelet around Maya's wrist. "You think she's just some nobody? That's not just a charity token. It's a key! The key to everything!" Jonathan's blood ran cold. Key? What was this man talking about? Maya's expression shifted. Fear blended with regret, and Jonathan saw something unspoken flicker in her tired eyes. The crowd fell silent, as if the city itself paused. Then it hit him. It all made sense. The perfect stranger that looked like Elon Musk. The whispers of development. The harsh reality of gentrification. Was Maya more than she seemed? Was she tied up in something bigger? Secrets, held tightly beneath the surface, now threatened to unravel. The other man screamed again, being wrestled to the ground. "You're all blind! She's not just teaching your kids, she's got the truth. This city is burning while you all just watch." It was a bombshell, and Jonathan's world shifted. Maya met his gaze, pleading with him to understand. He felt everything crumbling around him. His idea of her. The illusions he built. Could he trust her? Was she a warrior or a victim? The pounding of his heart drowned out the voices around him. Confusion whirled in his mind. What truth was there? Why did it resonate with his own scars? As chaos unfolded, Jonathan realized he was standing at the edge of a precipice. He could leap in and try to save everything, or turn back and let it shatter. Fear, curiosity, responsibility twisted inside him. and he felt the weight of the moment settle heavily on his shoulders. Something monumental just shattered, and the consequences, they loomed large. What happened next would change everything for him, Maya, and the city itself. The crowd's murmurs grew louder as Jonathan felt the weight of every gaze. Anxiety wrapped around him like a choking vine. He looked from Maya to Zoe, then back to the departing figure, the man who resembled Elon Musk. The world around them felt alive, yet frozen in a moment that screamed for action. Just as he steadied himself to step forward, a loud shout pierced the air, hard and jarring. "Get out of the way!" A man burst onto the scene, his face twisted in fury. He pushed past Jonathan, rushing towards them. In a heartbeat, everything shifted. "Who are you?" Maya's voice climbed up the decibel scale, fierce and protective as she shielded Zoe, lifting her off the ground. Jonathan felt a jolt of energy surge through him. The scene was unfolding too fast, too intensely. The newcomer yelled, "I'm going to take back what's mine!" The crowd froze, mouths agape. The bold claim slashed through the noise, echoing like a gunshot. Jonathan squinted at the man, searching for the truth behind his rage. But the truth spilled out like ink from a shattered bottle. The shock hit like a punch. The man wasn't just anyone. He was a local developer, known for ruthless schemes, always looking to acquire land, tearing through neighborhoods without a shred of remorse. "You think you can just sit here taking my business away?" He spat, venom dripping from his words, eyes glinting with a mix of anger and desperation. Suddenly, Jonathan saw everything bathed in a different light. Maya's expression shifted, her fierce demeanor faltering for a split second. "This is my home!" she shouted back, her fierce voice quaking with emotion. Jonathan took a step closer, heart racing. What was happening? Then came the twist. The developer's face morphed into a mask of anguish as he stared at Maya. You don't belong here anymore. You promised to leave." His voice trembled, revealing an unexpected vulnerability. Jonathan squinted, trying to piece things together as the world around him spun like a kaleidoscope. "Leave? What do you mean?" Maya whispered, a flicker of fear dancing across her features. Jonathan felt the air around them thickening with tension. She was not just any homeless woman. There was history here, a bond, a secret too heavy to bear. The crowd leaned in closer, breath held like an expectant audience at a climax. "You're my sister, Maya. You took everything. How could you leave me like this?" He bellowed, the raw pain crackling in his voice. The shockwaves of revelation rippled through Jonathan and the scowling spectators. "Sister!" This changed everything. Maya was not only a survivor struggling against the tides. She was wrapped in a history that was now unraveling before them. Brotherhood, betrayal, alliances, and lost dreams. Jonathan stood there, heartbeat pounding in his ears, his mind racing to catch up with this tidal wave. How did this change the fight ahead? What did it mean for Maya? The puzzle pieces were scattered, and the picture was turning blurry. As the confrontation between brother and sister escalated, Jonathan couldn't tear his eyes away. Could he leap in now, or would he be lost in this mess? And what kind of fight had he stumbled into? The crowd erupted in a storm of whispers and chaos. Something was about to erupt, a fateful twist waiting to unveil dark secrets and transform everything they thought they'd known. And in that moment, Jonathan's next move could not only change his path, but the lives of all involved. What more lay hidden beneath the surface of this chaotic dance? Questions flooded his mind, but the only thing he knew for sure was that chance was slipping away. Jonathan stood there, heartbeat pounding in his ears, as the crowd's murmur swirled like autumn leaves hanging heavy in the air. Maya's brother's accusation still echoed within him. Sister, liar, thief. A whirlwind of confusion tightened around them like an iron grip. He felt the weight of every gaze, every whisper, until the tension began to thicken, becoming almost suffocating. Then, in an instant, everything changed. A piercing scream tore through the atmosphere, sharp and pure, slicing through the tension. A woman, face pale and frantic, burst into the scene from a side alley. Her voice spilled out like a tidal wave, drowning out the chaos. Jonathan squinted, recognition sparking like electricity. It was Mia, Maya's best friend, a girl he had seen sulking in the background, always listening, but rarely speaking. What was she doing here? The urgency in her voice made everyone pause. "You have to listen! It's all a lie!" She stumbled forward, breathless, eyes wide like saucers. Maya, she never left, not of her own choice. They took her. They took us. Shock rippled through the crowd. Whispers turned to gasps. Maya's brother faltered, confusion flickering across his face. What? The truth! It's worse than you know! Mia was frantically shaking her head, wild strands of hair flying. They forced Maya out. They made her disappear. The development, the land. It's all about power, about control. You can't let them do this. Jonathan watched as Maya's eyes darted between her brother and Mia, urgency growing with each glance. Her expression was one of pained understanding, layered with fear. Something dark and menacing lay at the heart of this revelation. The crowd edged closer, drawn into Mia's emotion, her passion igniting a fire within them. Psst. They're still watching, waiting. They want to silence us. And then, another sound, a low rumble, like thunder rolling in from afar. Jonathan's heart raced. He turned to the source, meeting the growing tension in the air. The police cars were still there, but now more vehicles were pulling up. Unmarked cars, sleek and ominous. Maya's grip tightened around Zoe, her little face pressed into her mother's shoulder. A knot twisted in Jonathan's stomach. What were they getting into? Then, as if time had flipped, the unmarked vehicle's doors swung open, and figures began to spill out, wearing dark suits, earpieces glinting. The crowd parted out of instinct, fear palpable as realization set in. "John! Okay! Watch out!" Maya screamed, but it was too late. The suited figures lunged, not at her, but at Mia. "Get her!" one shouted, and in an instant, chaos erupted. The crowd exploded, people screaming and stumbling back as the suited figures launched themselves toward the girl who had spilled the truth. As Jonathan looked on, frozen, Mia turned just as one of the figures reached for her. She grabbed something from her pocket, a small device with a bright red button, and pressed it with a frenetic determination. The air exploded into chaos. Suddenly, blinding lights flickered on around them, illuminating every corner. A siren, piercing and immediate, blared to life, drowning out the crowd's frantic screams. Confusion turned to panic. Maya's brother staggered back, eyes wide in realization. "They're coming for us all," he shouted, but it was too late. As the lights pulsed and the sirens wailed, betrayal and fear mixed like thick fog rising from the ground. In the heart of the chaos, Jonathan felt his world shatter yet again. Everything he thought he knew about Maya, about their situation, twisted like a pretzel in his mind. Relationships morphed, undisclosed truths resurfaced, and the air hung heavy with danger. What kind of danger had they truly stumbled into? What hidden agendas lay waiting in the dark? As the sirens screamed into the night, the lights flashing wild, Jonathan knew one thing for certain. Escape was the only option now. But could they outrun the past, the truth? Or were they already caught in a game far beyond their understanding? Time twisted, tension thickened, and as the world crumbled around him, Jonathan felt the storm brewing. Reality danced at the edge of his vision, and everything hung in the balance, waiting to break loose. The sirens blared, slicing through the chaos like a knife. Flashes of light bounced off the faces of the crowd, panic igniting the air. Jonathan's breath hitched, eyes darting around, desperate for clarity. He needed to protect Maya and Zoe, needed to drag them from this mayhem before it consumed them. But Mia's voice rang out again, a wild urgency pushing its way through his confusion. "They'll find us! We have to fight back!" The fiercely determined girl was the catalyst of the moment, and her words ignited a flicker of hope in the chaos. Just as Jonathan steeled himself to grab Maya's hand, shouting, "We need to move!" another voice broke through the noise. "Stop!" This voice was familiar, full of authority, dark and demanding. A crowd parted like a wave as an imposing figure stepped forward, his eyes locked on Maya. Jonathan's heart sank as he recognized him. It was the exact look-alike of Elon Musk, with a face both charismatic and terrifying. "You think you can escape? You're in this too deep." Jonathan's chest tightened, realizing the gravity of the situation. Why was he here? What had she dragged them all into? He instinctively moved closer to Maya, but before he could shout a warning, everything erupted again. From behind the dark-suited man, another figure rushed forward. The crowd gasped. As he came into view, Jonathan's stomach dropped. It was Maya's brother, but something was very off. His face, twisted with rage and fear, was part of the storm brewing. "You think you're safe?" he shouted at his sister. "You bring them here, and now they'll destroy everything." "What?" Jonathan shouted, incredulous. "Maya, what is happening?" But before she could answer, a loud bang echoed through the alley. A gunshot. The sound devastated the air, invasive and sharp. Maya fell to the ground, hitting the pavement like a fallen leaf, her eyes wide in shock. "Zoe!" she cried, reaching out for her daughter. In that breathtaking moment of sheer horror, time slowed. Jonathan felt the blood drain from his face. He was unsure whether to run for Maya or shield Zoe. Then, as if orchestrated, he stumbled, and in the chaos, the light became brighter and darker, twisting all around him. And then it happened. Maya's brother rushed forward, arms outstretched, but he didn't reach for Maya. He pulled the gun from his waistband and turned it on the suited man. "You took everything from me," he shouted, voice laced with pain. "You'll pay. You'll all pay." The sights collided. 2 lives unraveled in less than a second. The crowd gasped, a collective inhale of disbelief, so thick it burned in Jonathan's throat. Before anyone could react, a loud shot rang out, a flash of light bursting into the darkness. Jonathan's heart felt like it shattered. Spanding frozen, he watched the chaotic aftermath unfold. Maya's brother collapsed to his knees, blood seeping from his own side, pain painted on his face. "Jonathan!" Maya screamed, her voice piercing through the fog. "Help him!" But shock held him still. Time wrapped around him, every sound blurred into a chilling melody of cries and throbs. Was this real? The brother he had only just learned of now lay crumpled in the dirt, and Maya's truth, her trauma, erupted like an unsolved equation. "Please," she begged, but he was lost. Zoe, wide-eyed in terror, clutched her teddy bear, small and fragile against the chaos. "Mommy!" she cried, voice thick with fear. And then, in a whirlwind of agony, Jonathan realized the unimaginable. The gunman wasn't attacking the suited figure, he was protecting Maya and her child. But why was he hurting? Everything turned upside down. The stakes had shifted, revealing a web of lies, heartbreak, and betrayal tightly woven around them like a net. Jonathan had stepped into a nightmare, and nothing felt real. Nothing felt safe. In that raw moment, with body and mind battling gravity, Jonathan understood one thing clearly. Trust was a poison. Everything he thought he knew was a fragile illusion, ready to shatter. As the crowd thundered with confusion, Jonathan felt something crack inside him, around him. A catastrophic revelation of truth and consequence danced beyond comprehension. What was happening? Who was really behind the chaos? Everything was about to change, and he was caught right in the middle. He had to choose. Would he fight, unravel the truth, or flee with a secret that could crush them all? The future shimmered uncertain, holding its breath in the chaos. The world erupted into chaos, an orchestra of fear and confusion. Jonathan felt paralyzed, his heart racing in his chest. Maya lay on the ground, panic and pain splintering through her eyes. Zoe still clutching her teddy bear, wide-eyed in disbelief. Everything that had been turned upside down now pushed back to center. "Maya!" he shouted, rushing to her side. The crowd swirled around them, chaos filled with screams and shouts. "Stay with me, okay? Just stay with me." Maya gasped, clutching her side, blood seeping between her fingers. "Zoe, keep close," she managed, voice trembling. Jonathan's heart ached. The world felt heavy, pressing down on them. The reality of the moment struck hard. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about love and sacrifice. Suddenly, the man who looked like Elon Musk stepped closer, eyes scanning the crowd. "Get her out of here!" His voice sliced through the noise, holding authority, laced with frantic energy. With the police closing in, he reached down to help Maya to her feet. "No!" Maya protested, struggling. "Bien!" You don't get to just, we don't have time, he said urgently. You're in danger, both of you. Maya's brother lay behind them, dazed and bleeding, but in that moment, it felt like the entire world hung in a balance. I'll help him, Jonathan insisted, but the suited man shook his head. I'll get him. You need to go. In a split second, Jonathan understood the urgency. If Maya was hurt, if they didn't move now, he took Maya's arm, helping her up despite her protests. We can't leave him, He made his choice, the suited man snapped. You're both at the center of something far worse. What do you mean? Jonathan shouted, feeling anger leak through his fear. Who are you? What's going on? Just trust me. He pushed them forward as shouts erupted from behind, footsteps closing in. Maya squeezed Jonathan's hand, her grip strong despite her pain. I won't let them take us, she declared, eyes fierce. And they ran, through the shouts, past the chaos. Just as they reached a gap between cars, Jonathan glanced back. The suited man faltered, fighting off the hands that reached for him. His eyes locking with Jonathan's in a split-second connection. Find your truth, he shouted. Before they could process the words, Jonathan propelled Maya and Zoe into a side alley. Their breaths came fast and sharp, the sudden quiet almost overwhelming. The walls loomed around them, shadows stretching like grasping hands. We have to go! We have to hide! Maya urged, clutching Zoe close. Then, in the stillness, they heard the screams of the police, the wail of urgency echoing in their veins. Jonathan's heart slowed for a breath, and he grasped Maya's elbows, drawing her close. Tell me everything, please. She looked at him, fierce yet terrified, eyes shimmering with shadows of her past. There's so much you don't understand. My brother, he's tied to all this, but they'll come for us, Jonathan. It's not safe. We need to keep moving. We're not getting caught, he promised, adrenaline pushing through him. Tell me the truth about that bracelet, the setup, why he said those things. Maya looked at him, trembling. It's a key to everything. I didn't leave them. They made me disappear. The weight of her truth hung between them, heavy with unspoken pain. Behind them, police sirens wailed, drawing closer. Jonathan tightened his grip, determination rising within him. Then we fight, not just for us, but for everyone. We can't let them win. Maya's eyes softened, bit by bit, flickers of hope surfacing. But we'll need help. We need to gather the truth, expose everything, or they'll keep coming for us. Before Jonathan could answer, a flicker of movement caught his eye, a shadow slipping between the alley walls. His heart raced. Was it friend or foe? Stay back, he yelled. Out from the shadows stepped Mia, her face pale but defiant. You're not alone, she cried, breathless from running. What do we do? Jonah asked urgently. Plan, fight, and share it all, she proclaimed, a spark igniting behind her eyes. She reached for her phone, determined. But first, everyone needs to know the truth while we still can. In that moment, Jonathan realized something deeper was happening. A community rising, hidden threads of fate intertwining. They were on the precipice of something grand and terrifying. The stakes had never been higher. As the sirens echoed nearer, Jonathan shared a look with Maya. This isn't over. And then they bolted, fear and fury intertwined, ready to chase down the darkness that threatened to consume them. Because together, they would fight. Together, They would uncover the truth. But shadows loomed on the horizon, and they were about to enter the heart of a storm. Now, this is where you come in. You have to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. It's the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and trust me, it makes a huge difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this crazy ending. What do you think will happen next? And don't wait even a second longer. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Your support matters. Let's keep the story going.